My name is Jason Emo, and I am an application scientist with Beckman Coulter Life Sciences. In this video, I will show you how to use Illustration Editor to create and modify figures, clone an existing figure for additional modification, export an illustration, use templates to create a new figure, and use the lock feature to grant illustration level access to edit your saved illustration. The Illustration Editor can be reached by either clicking Illustration Editor from the navigation bar in the Experiment Manager interface, or by clicking New on the Illustrations window in the Experiment Summary page. A new figure can be created in the Illustration Editor by clicking the Illustrations tab in the navigation bar and clicking New Illustration. The Illustration Editor is where figures are created and modified on the Cytobank platform. The process of working with figures is accelerated by annotating the experiment with sample tags. Sample tags become variables within the Illustration Editor. These variables can be toggled on or off and rearranged dynamically to build and modify a figure. This allows one to work above the level of FCS file names and instead use the scientific variables that were present in the experiment. To build a figure, sample tags can either be created when setting up a new experiment, or in the Illustration Editor by clicking on Layout, and clicking on Add Dimension, and finally, Enable Another Dimension. A window appears that allows you to create sample tags for conditions, doses, individuals, or time points. There is even an option to create your own custom dimension. The Illustration Editor navigation bar includes plots, layouts, save, export, templates, as well as the printer and lock icons. And I will go through each of these Illustration Editor features in this tutorial. Clicking Plots in the navigation bar opens a window which allows the user to configure plot-specific settings. The default is set to dot plots, however the user can change plot settings, including plot type, color by, overlaid, palette, showgates, and plot size. Changing the plot setting updates the other settings in the plots window. For instance, if you change the plot type from dot plot to heat map, then several new plot settings are populated, including statistics and scale range. All of the other more granular plot settings, including axis labels, whether to show the table of statistics below, and plot previews are available by pressing the More Plot Settings button in the Plots window. You can pop out both the Plots and Layouts windows from the navigation bar by hitting the box in the upper right-hand corner of the window. The Layout window allows users to create figures by using dimensions to orient the plots into rows, columns, and tables. The default layout view places FCS files in the rows position, channels in the columns position, and populations in the Table 1 dimension. You can add additional complexity to your figures by clicking on the Add Dimension button and clicking to enable another dimension. Sample tagging for conditions, doses, individuals, and time points can be accessed here. You can also choose to create your own custom dimension by clicking on Define a Custom Dimension, adding the name of the dimension that you want to create, and hitting the Submit button. You can also select a custom icon. The layout settings can be changed by clicking on the dimension of interest and then switching it from another dimension in whichever row, column, or table you want your figure oriented in. Additional FCS files, channels, and populations can be added to your figure by clicking the boxes to the right of the sample tags. Many of the features that are available in the Plots and Layouts windows can be changed by hovering on the label headers and plots. For instance, by hovering over the label header, you can configure which dimensions are in the rows, columns, and tables, rearrange plot layouts, select sample tags, remove entire rows, columns, and tables if there are no plots by clicking the X that appears when you hover. And you can double-click header labels to open the dimension selector box. Hovering over plots allows you to change plot type and attributes, change axes, export a file with just that plot, and double-click a plot to open plot settings. You can also click directly on the axis to change it. For Z-axis, click on the label that is to the right of the plot. You can also toggle between corner arrow style axis labeling versus labeling every plot by clicking inside of the Show in Every Row column box and selecting either No Only One Label or Yes to choose your preferred axis labeling. The table of statistics at the bottom of the illustration editor can be configured using the buttons at the top of the table. A CSV file of the statistics table can be exported with all numerical values and annotation types in single columns. The autosave feature is enabled by default in the Save tab. If you load a saved illustration and make changes, your saved illustration will be modified. To avoid making changes to your saved illustrations, you should always clone a new copy before making any changes. You can also save your current plot settings as a template for future use. Clicking the Export tab opens the Export Illustration Plots to File window, which allows you to export your illustration in your choice of format. You can change the name of the illustration, export it as a PDF, PNG, or SVG file, and include a number of exporting options, such as including a QR code link and a table of statistics. The Templates tab includes several options for creating layouts to visualize your data. It has a pairwise plots template, which gives the user an n-by-n view of all the channels in the experiment. Other templates include dot overlays, channeled colored dot plots, classic density dot plots, as well as classic and traditional histogram overlays. The printer icon opens a printable view of your illustration in a new tab in your browser window. Finally, the lock icon controls whether other users with full access or illustration-level project access to your experiment can edit your saved illustration. The default setting is set to locked. However, you can still edit your own saved illustrations with the locked settings enabled.